Wow, it has been a while since we just sat down and chatted, and I'm so excited to do just that today. I have 3 pages of questions here that you guys asked over on Instagram, which, by the way, if I ever do these Q&As, that is where I typically ask for questions, over at this.golden.hour. So if you ever want to be a part of that, just go ahead and follow me over there. There's a lot here. Some are very lighthearted and others are deep, so I will do my best to answer them. But as I try to often remind you, I am still learning and growing myself. So I will do my best with these, and hopefully it can be an encouragement to you as well. First question, do you get tired of cooking? What do you do then? Yes, I do get tired of cooking, and I find for me it's helpful then to try a new recipe. You might feel like, really, I already don't want to be in the kitchen, but for me that helps to kind of spark that interest again, and oh, I wonder how this is going to turn out. How could I plate that? And that helps me kind of get out of a cooking rut. We used to do Friday dinners. We would eat out as a family. We would often get takeouts. In the summer, it was fun to, sit outside and eat whatever we had done, a takeout, and make it a little picnic. That was really fun. And I feel like that did help to just kind of prevent the burnout, because I wouldn't have to cook one night a week. However, as our family has grown, that has become quite expensive to do. So we are not doing that currently. But yeah, I feel like just switching it up really helps to kind of get out of that cooking rut. How do you water your garden? By hand, drip system, any advice? So when we installed our raised garden beds, we did install a drip system. It is actually really simple to do, and we learned from Garden Answer. I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with her. She has a good detailed, actually a number of videos, I think, on doing that. So it's really not that difficult. However, almost every year we have to replace the drip tape in the boxes. So everything is set up, the pipes under the ground, coming up under the garden boxes, all that is fine. It's just screwing it in the garden boxes, because they do tend to get holes in them or things like that within the course of a season. And so by the next season, we're wanting to often replace them. Last year, we never got to it, and I will say it makes the world of a difference. For one, just how busy you feel all summer. If you're constantly thinking, I need to water, I need to water, I need to water, that definitely adds a lot of stress to one's mind. And then, especially if you're doing raised beds, they do need to be watered more than in-ground gardens. And so I would highly recommend, especially if you have raised beds, to just put drip everywhere. But more and more, even planting flower beds and that kind of thing, it's so simple that it really doesn't make sense not to install drip if that is a possibility as far as where you have water sources and things. So yes, I would highly recommend that. I do hand water some, but for the most part, we're trying to switch things over as much as we can to everything being on drip, because it saves so much time throughout the season. Do you meal plan for the week? So this depends on the season. Sometimes I go through spurts where I meal plan like a pro for a couple months maybe and have it all mapped out. And then there's other times when I'm like, that's too much work. Just every day I figure out, oh, let's cook this. I try to have meat thawing each day, or thawed, so that I can quickly whip up a meal and just kind of rotate the different cuts of meat. That's kind of what I'm in right now, just on the fly. What are we hungry for tonight? Do you have hydrangeas? If so, how and when do you prune them? Yes, so I had endless summer hydrangeas for years now, probably 7 years, and they've done really well. I never really bothered with pruning them. I might occasionally. They do bloom on new wood, which is nice because you don't need to worry about cutting off the branches that would be blooming that year. I fertilize them in the spring, but I don't prune too much. In the past 2 years, we've probably added, I would guess between 50 and 75 limelight hydrangeas, and they're beautiful. But again, I have not pruned them much. They seem a lot different than roses in how they respond to pruning, and it's a little bit more tricky as far as you don't want to over prune them and that kind of thing. Aside from just cutting off old blooms, I honestly have not done too much, and I should probably look into that a little more. What was you and your husband's reasons for homeschooling your children? So this is definitely multifaceted. And a little background for those of you that are new, I went to a private Christian school through grade 6 and then was homeschooled homeschooled. We ended up doing our high school with Abeka. So I graduated in Florida through Abeka's homeschool program, which was really fun. I think there was 308 other homeschool graduates. And so that was really fun. And then my husband was homeschooled the whole way throughout. So we did both come from a homeschooling background. However, I have never been one that loves books. I would so much rather be doing something hands-on. I really struggle to read. I'm trying to discipline myself to read more. I think slowly I am learning to enjoy it a little bit more, but I still get tired of it really easily. So I just was like, I am the most unlikely homeschool mom. I don't love books. I don't love teaching, and it felt really overwhelming. So we did start homeschooling kindergarten, and then actually first grade, our oldest daughter went to a private Christian school, and all of us hated it, which was surprising, honestly, but I feel like that year was so difficult, but it was so key in showing us what we really want. And so some of the big factors for us is we want to be with our kids. I felt like I never saw my daughter. She would have to leave for school 7 or 7:30 in the morning, come back, 3 or 3:30, and then all the kids love milking time. And so then of course she wanted to still go to the barn between 4 and 4:30, and then they would be there till supper, and we would quickly have supper, and then she would have homework to do. And it was just this cycle again and again that I felt like I'm not even seeing her hardly. And so that was really hard for me. We just wanted to be with our kids. We wanted to be the ones pouring into them. And I'm not saying you can't pour into your kids if you do send them to school, but it was something that was just not what I wanted. I wanted to be able to teach them according to their learning styles and how I knew they learn best, give them that one-on-one time that I knew they would thrive in. So those are a couple of the big things that up front were like, this is, a big deal to us. How did you get into such a good food routine for your family? So I feel like the whole healthy eating, food from scratch, raw milk, all this stuff is kind of in right now, but that is not actually why this all started for us. It started back really the first year of our marriage when I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, found out I had had it for 5 years already. Symptoms were pretty intense by then, and so that forced me into a healthier way of eating. And I would say all through my teen years, probably since I was about 12 years old, that I have been really interested in just health and nutrition and exercise and that kind of thing. But my way of doing that was a lot of salads, which in hindsight, they were not that healthy. A lot of toppings that were not great for me, but it was a salad, right? I was very low protein back then, and all these things that now I'm like, that was so not what I thought it was. But it's okay. It's kind of where it started. And then, since then, it's just been as I learn more about how the body responds to things, as I learn more about how even what I'm feeding my kids now when they're little, they'll take with them into their adulthood, both habits, eating habits, and what they crave, but also health pillars that we can build when they're little that can then benefit them for the rest of their lives. And so I firmly believe that eating healthy should not be something stressful, but rather just a way of life that we're always learning and growing and trying to eat really well for the majority of the time, but still being able to just let loose. And if we're with a friend at a baseball game or whatever, we can still stop for ice cream and enjoy some treats here and there. But the core of what we do, that it can truly nourish our bodies and not just be empty foods that we're eating. So that's kind of how it started. And it's honestly become quite a passion of mine in the process. Which whitening strips do you use? I use the Luminu, I think that's how you say it, whitening strips. And I haven't now for some time. I actually just ordered some more this morning because I need to get some again. They are really good for sensitive teeth, and they're also a more natural option. So I like to use those here and there. Any favorite parenting resources? I think this person was asking specifically for books and podcasts. Some of our favorites over time, and by the way, when I mention names, I am not standing behind everything that this person may have written, all their books, what they might say, I feel like you're easily put in a box as soon as you mention names. So Douglas Wilson has some really good parenting books. Raising Boys to Be Men is one that I read. The Covenant Household is another. I feel like there's a couple more. Last year I actually was it last year or the year before? I read a number of his books and gleaned some really good wisdom there. Again, I don't agree with everything, but there were some really good nuggets. Paul David Tripp is another favorite. Shepherding a Child's Heart is a good one. And then Emma's for Mama is a good podcast. I've just enjoyed learning from her. She has some really good down-to-earth advice, wisdom, tips, and she's a mom of many. I want to say 10 to 12. She does have some wisdom under her belt and some experience. And then Now That We're Family is another one that I kind of listen to spontaneously, or sporadically. They also are just really down to earth. They are a younger family, so their oldest kids are definitely a number of years younger than my oldest kids, but I still do enjoy listening to them and hearing what they have to say on some of these different topics. How do you feel about beef liver capsules? I love them. So I've been taking them since probably the middle of my last pregnancy, and I have noticed a huge difference in energy levels specifically. I would say that's the biggest thing that I'm like, why do I still have so much energy? Doesn't mean I'm never tired, but it has made a big difference specifically in energy levels. And I take the ones from Perfect Supplements. I really like their line. What did you take for postpartum hair loss? Okay, so this will probably be a little bit of a sticky topic for some of you. And I still do not have the most beautiful, healthy, lush hair you've ever seen. It has been a struggle for me ever since. I think it started when I got Lyme, because as a kid I did have really thick hair, and then that changed drastically over the years, but it is definitely better now than it has been in a long time. And so I'm really excited and grateful for that. Honestly, the biggest thing I did was I stopped using Monate. Yes, I know that that probably upsets a lot of people, but I tried Monate for 3 years. I tried multiple of their different systems and their hair thinning stuff and all these different ones. I would keep talking to the person that I bought under, whatever they're called, consultant, and she would recommend this or that, and my hair just was not having it. And I kept thinking, I will get that after yet. After 3 years, my hair still looks like all these before pictures. But finally, after 3 years, I was like, okay, Steph, this has been a long enough trial. It's not working for you. So I stopped using their products and almost immediately noticed my hair improving. So I'm sure it does work for some people, but clearly not for everyone. And since then, I've actually heard of a number of people that it does not work for. So I switched to Prose, Prose, and it's more of a personalized hair care that's still a natural option. You do a quiz and see, where your hair's at, and then they customize your shampoo and all of that accordingly. What month do you start your flower seeds indoors? That just depends on what flower seeds I'm starting and what your zone is. So check your garden zone, see when your last frost date is, and then just look on the back of your seed packets and it should tell you how many weeks before your last frost you should be starting them, and that's what I go by. Do you still like to go thrifting? That's a good question. I used to do some thrift hauls here and there. Honestly, I have not been thrifting for, the last time I really went thrifting is probably almost 2 years ago? I don't know. It's been quite a while. I don't love it as much as I used to. It felt like it started when a number of thrifting accounts started in our area and everything was just picked out. And then these people would go and resell it for, a lot more, which is totally fine. I'm sure it was a great way for them to make some income, but it also meant that things were pretty picked through because I could not be going to the thrift store, 3 times a week, checking for new things all the time. So that was one thing. And then prices, thrifted prices have gone up so much. And then also just some health issues that I was dealing with. Light sensitivity has flared again. Some of those things that just made it pretty miserable shopping. And then with that and the time it takes to go and sift through a thrift store, it just has not made it worth it for me. So I have not done much thrifting recently. Doesn't mean that I never will again, but right now that's not something I'm doing much of. Do you have a standing code with Nuflora? Yes, Golden Hour 10 is always good. And when will this video go live? I need to check because they are having their semi-annual spring sale, which you can still stack my code. So it's the best deal you will get the entire year. They do one in the spring and one in the fall. So I would highly recommend if you're looking for something from there and waiting for a sale, this is your time. They don't usually run sales throughout the year for anything. but they have these 2 sales, so it's your time to snag something, and I think that's March 5 to 7. Love when you share links for your kitchen items. Oh, thank you. So yeah, I guess I don't do that too much on YouTube, but I have been trying to do it more on Instagram and just sharing like random things that I love using in the kitchen. So you can find that there, and I try to save a lot of that in my highlights there as well. What is your family screen time limits, movies, video games, etc.? Okay, so we don't do any video games, and we don't really have set screen times. We just spend very little time, or I should say the kids especially spend very little time on screen. We usually have 1 movie night a week, which is kind of their set thing, and then that's the norm, is 1 night a week. But sometimes, like if they're not feeling well, or here and there for school, we have a little video clip. There's times like that, but as kind of the set standard, it's usually 1 night a week. Do you have any 2025 goals? So this is an interesting question. I don't really set New Year's resolutions anymore. Like, I like to look back a little bit at the end of a year and the beginning of the next year, but I don't like to set a lot of resolutions. I feel like, especially in the season of life, things are already really busy, and so it's more thinking, how can I be more efficient with the things that I'm doing? How can I improve them, make them more streamlined? That's a little bit more along the lines of what I think of. I want to really excel in the things that I'm doing, and I don't feel like I'm in a place where I can add a lot. But there are things, like especially character-wise, that I think of a lot. I want to be more grateful all the time, or I want to express compliments more to others because I know what they can do for you, and just things like that. I want to be in a constant state of prayer and just thinking of, praying about literally everything, those kinds of things. But I'm guessing you're looking more for like resolutions, which one that has been on my list. And I think somebody else asked, I don't know where that one is now, if I had the time, what would be something new I would like to learn, or something like that. And making cheese has been on my list for quite some time. I actually just ordered a book on cheese making. So we'll see. That one has kind of intimidated me for a while. I've heard too many experiences of people like going to all the work of trying to make their own cheese and then they don't really like it anyway. But it is something, especially with living on a dairy farm, that I really want to try and at least prove to myself then that it doesn't taste good, because I feel like we could save a lot of money if I just made my own cheese. What are good starter fruits and veggies for a beginner garden? So fruits, I would definitely not recommend starting with fruit trees. They have proved to be tricky. But raspberries are really easy. Strawberries are quite simple. Those would probably be my top recommendations for fruit. And then veggies, there's a lot, but probably some of the greens like lettuces, kale, spinach, those are really easy. Carrots are simple. And then herbs, I would probably start with like these fresh cut greens, salad greens, and herbs would be a great place to start, because the herbs you're going to fall in love with so quickly. Tradition ideas for family, or how do you come up with tradition ideas? Oh, I love traditions. They are some of my favorite things. We keep ours very simple for the most part, but it is something that all of us really look forward to, and it's such a great way to, as busy families, still continue to just make the sweetest memories. So some of our favorites is a sleepover as we enter into each new season. So the first day of spring, the first day of summer, the first day of fall, the first day of winter, we have a family sleepover in a room where there's a lot of windows. It kind of started as a like glamorous tenting because it kind of feels like you're outside. You can open the windows if the weather is nice and have that fresh air, but we're all together. We often will watch a movie that night, kind of have snacks, maybe read a story. I like to try to make them a little bit themed, but y'all know, just I love my themes. So that has been a really fun one. And then we have a number of Christmas traditions, which I think I recently covered in a Christmas video. For Easter, we often like to make little resurrection gardens. There's birthday traditions. I feel like there's just kind of traditions depending on the time of the year. But I would start simple. Some really simple traditions is we have done baked oatmeal for Sunday breakfast for years and years. I think since Josh and I got married pretty much. And that has been really simple, but it's something the kids talk about through the weekend that they look forward to. Or for a long time, we did Saturday night night was burger night. We haven't stuck to that to a T, but it still is often, I don't know what to make Saturday night, and then we'll just whip up some burgers. Thoughts on sleep training? I have not sleep trained any of my babies. I know that that can be a controversial thing, but it doesn't have to be. Like, it just depends on what's best for your family, and for us, that is not something that we have chosen, and we've been happy with our results. Do you only dress up and do makeup during videos and weekends? No. Well, okay, I don't always dress up. Depends what you mean by that. I'm not always wearing like fancy dresses or anything, but I do get dressed every day. And so that will depend on what I'm doing on the day as far as what I'm wearing. And yes, I do wear makeup pretty much every day. Here and there, I will take a day off. But for the most part, I do. For me, that's just how I feel presentable. I feel ready. I feel ready to face the day and meet people, and even just to look good for my husband and my kids. That's just putting my best foot forward. And I like to view homemaking as my job, I guess. I would get dressed to go out to work, and I feel so much more productive in my own home if I am dressed and ready for the day. So that is what I do. It doesn't mean that I have a very extensive getting ready routine at all. I do just, simple makeup and get dressed every day, and it makes a huge difference. How long does each school day take you? So they usually start around 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're done around noon. So like 4 to 5 hours. That would include the big kids. The little kids wouldn't take quite that long. There's a number of questions on marriage. So how do you have time for your husband with many different demands? How do you keep the spark alive? How do you keep this love spark in your marriage? I can see your hands are full. Lots of questions along those lines. Communication is key and can make such a difference in any marriage, but I feel like our lifestyle is also very conducive because we're just doing life together. And so there are busy seasons when this is not the case, but normally we will have the chance to talk multiple times throughout the day. We have the chance for physical touch, give each other long hugs, come by each other and give each other a kiss, little things like that are so small but speak volumes in keeping the spark alive. Kind of flirt with each other throughout the day sometimes. I feel, again, like communication is just so key. Knowing what we're up to, keeping up with how each other's day is going, and just trying to serve each other that way. As far as the love spark, I'm guessing you're also referring to intimacy, and to that I would just say keep it exciting. And kind of along those lines, somebody else was asking about how to best serve your husband as a stay-at-home mom. I love that question. I think there's so many ways, but one thing that was really helpful for me early on was to ask your husband what means a lot to you. So give him 3 options. Does it mean the most to him if you have the house picked up when he comes in from work, or if you are looking tip-top, clean clothes, maybe applied some fresh lipstick, or if you have a delicious home-cooked meal ready? Because as busy moms, sometimes all 3 of those are not an option. But if you ask your husband which of those are the most important to him or mean the most to him, and then really focusing in on that. So it's been a busy day, but you know that for your husband, a delicious home-cooked meal means more than a clean house or that you are looking put together, and you can work on that. So all through the day, you already know this is what means the most to him. You can have something cooking in the slow cooker. You can do a little bit of prep while the kids are down for a nap so that you're ahead of the game and can have supper ready and all of that. Or you can slap on some lipstick and do a quick change of clothes if that's what means the most to him. Things like that. Knowing the one thing that means the very most to your husband and then focusing in on that has been a great way for myself, and I've talked about it to friends, and they also say that it's made such a difference for them. So that would be one tip on that. Where to buy cute pajamas for babies and toddlers? This is a fun one. I love shopping for my kids. It's one of my very, very favorite things to do. Brave Little Ones has some great, they're the soft like bamboo pajamas. They're really good. Holy Pals has some good ones for Christmas time, especially. I think they do some other holidays as well. And those are probably my 2 favorite places to get pajamas, and they also do matching pajamas at Christmas time. For little kids, Jamie Kay also has some really good like baby onesies and things. What kind of grains do you grind in mill for baking, and what health improvements have you found from grinding your own grain? So my grain meal is a pretty new experience for me. I just got it for Christmas from Josh. It has been so much fun to experiment with, and I would say I'm still very much in the experimenting phase, but so far my very, very favorite to use is hard white wheat. Hard white wheat berries, yes. I've had the best results with that. I know a lot of people say the soft white wheat berries are better in like quick rise things. Sometimes I feel like they are, but not always. Sometimes I still feel like the hard white wheat berries are better even in those dishes. And so I need to experiment with that a little bit more. And then I would love to get into some of the ancient grains and some of the different ones like that. So, but that's literally all that I've done so far. And then health improvements. So that's been fascinating and really surprising. I was expecting for fresh milled breads and things to feel similar to what sourdough, how that feels in your stomach. And it has felt completely different. It feels like vegetables, honestly. I've eaten so much fresh milled things. It has not negatively affected my weight. Josh has even said what a huge difference he feels with the fresh milled, so that's been really fun. Easiest thing to start baking versus buying. Bread, super simple. Crackers, super simple, and I would probably start with those two. Where did you learn all your gardening skills? I admire you so much. Thank you. I grew up with it. My mom was a big gardener. She still is, and that's where I've learned most of it. And of course, once you have your own garden, it really comes to life, and it's a whole new game, but always learning, growing, and absolutely loving it. Tips on decluttering toys when kids have trouble parting with them. That can be a tricky one, but it helps sometimes if they go through it themselves and just let them pick their very favorites, and then the rest we're gonna give to the thrift store where other kids that need toys can get some. Or sometimes I will just put some things in big bags and take them up to the attic so they're removed for a while if I'm not sure if it's something that the kids really want or are still playing with. And if they're never mentioned, I get rid of them. If they are mentioned, I can go back up and pull them out. Do you have a maid or hired help out on the farm or around home? A lot of questions about this. So Josh does have milking help a couple nights a week. And then I do have the absolute best cleaning crew coming once every other week. And they are such a help, and I'm so grateful for them. So I still obviously have some cleaning to do between those times, but that has been such a help. It was something that when I started homeschooling again for the year, I was like, what? Like, I feel like I took on another whole job, which essentially I did. And my mom was really encouraging me to think through the things that are most important to you that you do yourself. So for myself, I was not willing to get a nanny for the kids. Again, that's part of the reason that we wanted to homeschool, was to be the ones pouring into them, and I would rather hire out some other things. And so baking, I really enjoy my own baking, so it wasn't either an area that I wanted to give up, but cleaning, I was like, you know what? That's something, it's not my favorite thing to do. And it was an area that I was willing to accept help for. And so that has just been such a help. And then I also do have a good friend that edits my videos for me, and that has again been such a huge help, because both cleaning and editing can take a lot of time, and so we're so grateful for them. How is your sister? A number of you asked about my sister that was diagnosed with leukemia back in September, and she's doing quite well. She has just started another round of chemo, so we're all really looking forward to when that is completely done. But given the circumstances, she's doing really well, and Lord willing, we'll have a full recovery, which we are just so grateful for, but also just waiting to get through the season of treatments and all the side effects that goes with it. I'm curious when and how you do your computer work, like editing. So I don't edit most of my own videos. There's videos here and there. My friend is actually just getting ready to have a baby, so I will have to pick up editing a little more through that time, but there's still things that I need to do on the computer, like emails, and if I'm posting stuff on Instagram and things like that. And I really try to do those things when the kids are not around. I do not want to just be sitting at my computer. And again, there's seasons where I have to, but for the most part, I like to do things in the morning before they are either awake or while the kids are outside doing their chores, or in the evening when they are at the barn during milking time. And so, or sometimes after bedtime, I do some too. So kind of try to fit it in those places. Can you do a house tour? Get this question a lot. Right now, I'm not planning to do one. I'm still trying to figure out, like, I've thought of doing just like each room, but not showing the layout. It's just one of all the privacy things that, you know, people have big opinions on, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where I sit with it. How do you deal with sibling fallouts? That is hard, and I'm so sorry. I'm guessing you mean more than little kid squabbles when they're little. So I think something that's actually been really helpful for us is we traveled and sang. This was like me growing up before I was married. We traveled and sang a lot, and so we were stuck within, how big was the bus? 42 feet? That could be totally off, but it was tight quarters nonetheless. And so we were so used to being so close to each other, and you had to work things out because you had nowhere to go. But then also before we would go sing on stage, it was important to us to have, like, there shouldn't be any strife between us before we would go minister to others if we want the Lord to bless our work. And so I think some of those things help, just our parents guiding us through all of that. Doesn't mean we were perfect or never had disagreements, but we are all still very close to this day, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Everything about your gallbladder journey, please. Okay, so I've been watching my diet closely, basically just trying to avoid fatty foods, fried foods, dairy, things like that, especially like butter and cream, the heavier dairy. That has been helpful, but then I did a liver cleanse. It was the Dr. Schultz's liver and gallbladder detox, something like that it's called. 6-day thing, and I have felt significantly better than that, but I actually have an ultrasound scheduled for in a couple of weeks to actually see. I'm very curious if they dissolved. This was not so much supposed to flush them as it was supposed to dissolve them, so I didn't see anything that would have suggested gallbladder stones, but I'm curious if they dissolved or not. So yeah, I should know more in a couple of weeks. What kind of church do you attend? Absolutely love your content. Thank you. We actually attend a non-denominational church. What religion do you practice? I saw you reading the Bible. Yes, I am a Bible-believing Christian. Do you and your husband share the role of homeschooling, or is it primarily on you? This is something that we keep talking about. Right now, it's mainly on me. He helps one of the kids with math, and the rest I do pretty much. And so, yeah, it's something that we're talking about, if we want to change anything with that or what we could do there. And another kind of health one, your diet and weight loss. Couple of questions about this. Tips on losing baby weight. What did you do to lose so much weight? So I thought initially I would do a video on postpartum weight loss and all of that, but the more that I learned, the more I realized it's really just a matter of getting back to health. So for me, almost always when my weight goes up significantly, it has to do with health issues. And I've heard it said before, something along the lines of, if you are in good health, then you will not be overweight. And they said it much more eloquently than that. But I found that to be true for myself, that if I am truly eating well, I'm nourishing my body well, and my levels are good, all of that, the weight just kind of falls off. I don't need to worry about it. However, it's also the other way around. So when I was pregnant, I gained just over 60 pounds, and I continued eating the same, very similar to how I had been eating before that. And I still gained 60 pounds, which was really frustrating. But now on the other side of it, as I focused on my body getting healthier and healthier, the weight has also just kind of come off on its own without having to do a lot. Now, having said that, I'm not going around eating Cheetos and playing video games. I am working out with Train Well. I talked about them on here a while ago, but that's my current workout program. Even just walking is also great. And then I also try to eat a good diet. And I'm not on a specific like paleo or keto or, you know, all the different ones, as much as I just try to eat foods in their most natural forms and very little, not really any, I guess, processed foods or that kind of thing. And so I think that has been really helpful, but I am not a fan or a proponent of these crash diets. I think they only cause harm. And so it has to be a lifestyle and something you're willing to commit to long term, and the rewards and the benefits are unbelievable. And so I would highly recommend, even if it's just baby steps at a time, working on nourishing your body and taking care of it so that it can thrive for you. And that just translates into so many areas of life. I think some of the health issues that I've gone through in my life have made me so much more aware of the gift that it is to be able to move your body or to eat well and some of those things. And so that plays into it as well. So probably not the answer you were looking for. A couple practical things that I could say is high protein. I did start juicing some, which I try not to drink too many fruit juices, even if it is fresh pressed, cold pressed. from my own juicer just because I know they're really high in sugar, but I do love like carrot juice or green juices, that kind of thing. Lots of veggies, lots of protein. I still intermittent fast, but honestly, I was intermittent fasting through most of my pregnancy and still gained all that weight. And then move your body, whichever way that you enjoy, just move your body. Those are some very practical tips. Drink a lot of water, but I feel like they're just kind of generic tips, honestly. For me, it's just been all about getting my body healthy again, and I think blood testing and things like that can help you figure out where your weight is. In studying about my gallbladder and liver connection and all of that, I've also heard that if your liver is healthy, it's pretty much impossible for a person to be overweight. So that could be something to look into more in getting your liver healthy again and see what difference that would make. My camera keeps wanting to overheat. It is sitting right in the sunshine for who knows how long right now. So we're gonna have to start wrapping this up. I still have a lot of questions left here. Let's do a couple quick ones. A couple of you are asking about a cookbook, when that's coming, if that's coming. It's definitely a dream of mine. I would say I'm taking very slow steps in that direction, but it's not quite on the horizon yet. What are your favorite, most used freeze-dried foods? My very favorites is grounding them up into powders to flavor things, or for like the frostings that I did, to make cakes be different colors. That's just been kind of an unexpected one and really fun. The only thing I would say so far that I have freeze-dried and not liked was carrots. I did not like freeze-dried carrots. Do you ever receive criticism or judgment about your lifestyle, and how do you deal with it? Yes. One thing that you'll find out very quickly, especially if you put yourself out there online, is no matter what you do, there will be people that really love it and there will be people that really hate it. And what you have to realize is you cannot base your lifestyle around that, or you will never be happy, and you'll constantly be jumping from one thing to the next because people just have very different opinions. So I think the best thing to do is pray about what lifestyle you should have and then fully embrace it. And people will love it and hate it, and that's okay. Just staying in your lane and not finding your worth in what other people are saying, but rather finding your worth in the Lord. People will say things, and that's okay. Okay, let's end with this one. How do you manage everything? I must have gotten 50 questions of this in the last month. How do you manage everything? Homeschool, hosting, content creating, being a mom, gardening, and homemaking, and food from scratch, and all the things. How do I manage it all? Cleaning helps. Living on a farm, our lifestyle where the whole family is home, helps. Having a lot of kids helps because they all entertain each other. And then aside from that, I think it goes back again to realizing through my seasons of sickness and not feeling well, what a gift it is to be able to work. I do not like just sitting around. I like to keep my hands busy. I like to do new projects and keep moving. I find great joy in making a big impact. And so I think a lot of it comes down to that. And so I tend to view being able to work as a gift. And that's probably why I'm so motivated to do a lot of it. I love what I do, which also really helps. And then I stick to it a lot. There's definitely days where I don't get so much done, but as a whole, I don't really go out shopping a lot. I don't enjoy it, honestly. And so I'm often just home throughout the week and love it that way. And so that also definitely contributes to that homeschool. Again, it's just, I know what the other option is and I don't like it. And so I love what I do, and some of the things that I do, I have just chosen to love what I do, romanticize it as I go along, and there's always hoops to jump through in every season of life. There's growing pains, there's all the things, but life is such a gift. The giver of life is so good, and I want all that I do to be done as unto Him. I want to be careful too how I say this, because I know there's seasons where you don't get much done. I've had those seasons myself, and there's nothing wrong with you if you need to take it easier. A couple little tips. I don't know if that answered your question, but I hope that at least maybe helped or gave you some ideas. Thank you so much for those of you that submitted questions. Thank you for joining me today. I hope it was helpful and that you were inspired, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.